Yo, what's up guys? It's Tayden and I'm here to compare the G Pro Superlight and the Viper V2 Pro because I feel like these are both really high-end mice, but there's definitely one that is better than the other, and I don't think people should be buying one of these mice anymore because it is quite obvious that one of them is just better. And just a little background on why you should take my opinion into account. I have a lot of high-ranking scores on Kovacs in a bunch of different scenarios, and I've also tested and tried and played on a lot of different mice and mouse pads. So the G Pro Superlight is $160 retail versus the Viper V2 Pro, which is $150 retail. So a $10 difference for the retail price. And on sale, the Viper V2 Pro is $127 versus $150 sale for the G Pro Superlight, which is about a 15% increase in price. Not the biggest jump, but obviously the Viper V2 Pro is going to be a little bit cheaper. All right, next we'll go on to weight. The Viper V2 Pro comes in at 58 grams versus the G Pro Superlight 63 grams. Obviously, a 5-gram difference in weight isn't going to make you the best player if you're the worst player, but the Viper V2 Pro is definitely lighter than the G Pro Superlight. All right, next up, we're going to go to the sensor. I do not have the expertise to collect the sensor data for this, so thankfully, Optimum Tech, you can check him out in the description. He's a great reviewer and has a lot of very informative videos. He collected some data on both of these sensors, and here are the graphs for those, which show pretty clearly that with motion sync, the Viper V2 Pro has much smoother inputs compared to the G Pro Superlight. And the Viper V2 Pro is also capable of wireless 4K Hz polling rate compared to the G Pro Superlight's 1K Hz polling rate. Next up, we're gonna go with the click latency. This is gonna be another graph from Optimum Tech. Please go check him out. His tech videos are super informative, and this video wouldn't be possible without his shit. And with this data, we can see that the Viper V2 Pro's click latency is going to be slightly better than the G Pro Superlight. The 0.5 millisecond difference isn't going to change anything in game. And next up is going to be the click feeling. Personally, I feel like the Superlight has some of the worst clicks that I have ever felt on a gaming mouse, and the side buttons are extremely mushy and don't feel good at all. So I would rate them a 0 out of 10. They feel fucking awful. Comparing that to the Viper V2 Pro's click feeling, it's not the best click feeling I've ever felt, but it's definitely better than the Superlight. More tactile, and it just feels better in general. Next up is going to be the shape. Personally, I also think the G Pro Superlight shape is awful. Whenever I ask somebody about the G Pro Superlight shape, I always hear bad things. You can go ahead and ask whoever about the G Pro Superlight, because I'm confident that probably 80% of people in the aim training community just hate the G Pro Superlight shape. Compared to the Viper V2 Pro, although this shape is also a pretty basic shape that doesn't get a lot of praise, I haven't run into many people saying that it is a bad shape compared to the Superlight. For me, I really like FK style shapes, really flat shapes, so the Viper V2 Pro I easily like more than the G Pro Superlight shape. And now on to a couple things that I feel don't really matter, but I'm gonna leave in here really quickly. The battery life. I didn't even look into this because honestly, if you have to plug your mouse in one more time every year, then I don't think that's a big deal. But if it is to you, then sure, go look up whatever the fuck the battery life is on these mice. And next, on the feet. Honestly, if you're gonna spend $160 on a gaming mouse, you're probably just gonna buy aftermarket feet anyways. So I don't think stock feet matter that much. One thing to note about the G Pro Superlight's feet is that it has the giant puck at the front. And because there is more surface area, it'll generally give a more controlled feeling versus the Viper V2 Pro. Having less surface area will generally give a more speedy and free feeling. And now on the scroll wheel. Honestly, I don't care about scroll wheel that much. As long as it scrolls and works, it's fine with me. Honestly, I feel like I liked my Superlight scroll wheel a little bit more than the Viper scroll wheel. But again, it really does not matter to me, and I don't think it should matter to you either. Next is going to be QC issues. Honestly, I've heard a lot about people having double click issues with Logitech, but somehow throughout all the Logitech mice I've owned, I've never had double clicking issues. So I don't know if I've just gotten lucky or if it really is that rare, but I've heard a lot of people have issues with double clicking. My first G Pro Superlight, I actually had to send back because it had some discoloration on it. If you want the same feeling as searching for water in a desert, you can go search for customer support on the Logitech website. After I finally found the support, I got a new one sent out though, so it's not a big deal. And I haven't heard any standout issues with the Viper V2 Pro. The next is coding. Honestly, I didn't have any problems with coding. I've heard some people say that the coding wears off really fast, but personally, I didn't have that big of an issue with it. And finally, colors. If you really care about having a pink mouse, the G Pro Superlight comes in pink. So if you really care about the color of your mouse while you're staring at your monitor, then the G Pro Superlight is the mouse for you. And with that comparison, I think it's pretty easy to see which one of these two mice you should buy. I mean, you can either buy a mouse that is cheaper, lower weight, has a better sensor, better click latency, and better click feeling and shape, or you can buy a pink mouse. If you have any opinions on these mice or anything I left out, please let me know in the comments, because I feel like there's no redeemable qualities for the Superlight at this point. And it makes sense because the mouse is like almost 2 years old at this point. It's just gonna eventually come that there's gonna be a better mouse out there. With that, I think I'm done with this comparison. Like, comment, subscribe, share, show your dog. And with that, I'm out. Peace.
Honey. Close your eyes and let the word paint 1,000 pictures. One good girl is worth 1,000 bitches. Bam.